Good evening and welcome to News Geelong on this first day of November in the year of 2013. Time flies when you're having fun. Tonight we're going to titillate your tastes with the Spring Carnival still alive and well by having a look at the Melbourne Cup. And then a little secret from down in Geelong at the Geelong Gallery, the 1888 Melbourne Cup, which is down here in Geelong. I'm going to take you on a tour to have a look at that little special. Weather-wise, we'll bring you the Geelong and Surf Coast area weather outlook over the next 6 days. Let's hope the wind starts to abate. And from the world of sport, we've got Division 1 bowls exclusive, again from down here in our great city of Geelong. We've got Avalon Speedway, where it was the great sprint car jackpot last Saturday night. We've got the world of golf and a little bit on the world of racing to continue your sniffing of the dollars that you may be winning at the punt. One of the best kept secrets around Geelong is at the Geelong Gallery, and that is the 1888 Melbourne Cup. Yes, the year of the first 100th anniversary of the settlement, British settlement of Australia. And the winner of the 1888 Melbourne Cup was a horse called Mentor. And also down at the Geelong Gallery is the 1890 Geelong Gold Cup, which was won by a horse called Britannia. Ian Nichols has the story.
Well, here's the opportunity of a lifetime to see a Melbourne Cup. In this particular case, 1888, known as the Centennial Cup it was. Silversmith Elkington from Birmingham created this masterpiece with 3 horses, and it's on display until November 17 at the Geelong Art Gallery. And we're talking with the curator, Lisa Sullivan. When you see the size of the 1888 Melbourne Cup Silver, and looking absolutely beautifully restored, it's something that everybody should come down and see.
Absolutely. It's a magnificent piece that we've on display or on loan from the National Gallery of Australia in Canberra. And it's a piece that was added to their collection specifically for touring. And it was offered to us at this very opportune moment. And it's a magnificent piece. It's particularly large because it celebrates or commemorated the 1888 running of the Melbourne Cup, which of course was the centennial the centenary of the British arrival in Australia. So it was a particularly momentous year. The Cup itself, I believe, was displayed at the Royal Exhibition Buildings in Melbourne and was seen by many people before it was actually awarded to the winner of that race, Mentor.
Yes, now we're going to tell our listeners that Mentor was actually bred at a stud farm just north of Geelong, so here's another piece of historical connection with this cup. It really is all coming together.
Absolutely. Donald Wallace's stables, or stud, were just between Ballarat and Geelong, Ballark, so a lovely connection. But what's also really interesting is that with the winnings of the 1888 Melbourne Cup, Wallace went on to buy Carbine, and of course Carbine's a very well-known racehorse in the history of Australian racing.
Well, no, you've told me this is not your field of expertise, but you're doing a marvellous job, Lisa.
It's certainly not my area of expertise, but I think all of us love this racing fever that hits.
Well, it does, and over the journey we have done features on the Gold Cup alongside, which it pales into absolute insignificance, sadly, but that is a magnificent Fisher-designed cup. We know it's a Gold Cup that was from the 1890 Geelong Cup, and you've had that in the collection for quite some time.
That's right. Well, while it pales in significance in terms of the size, it's a really very significant piece. Fisher, of course, was an Austrian-born craftsman. He came to Australia in the 1850s, like a lot of European-born artists seeking or hoping to benefit from the gold rush. So he arrived and set up a business here in Geelong and really made his name as a silversmith and goldsmith here in the Geelong region. He was awarded the commission for the first Geelong Cup in 1873, and he basically held that commission for some 17 years. There are only now 5 known of those 17 cups that he created, because of course post-gold rush and as the depression of the 1930s hit, unfortunately a lot of those gold cups were melted at the time. So there are only 5 known cups that Fisher actually made. And as I said, although it's smaller in scale, it's exquisite in its detail. It has so many very detailed, beautiful features, little jockey caps, a beautiful horse on the top of the cup, laurel wreaths around it, and horseshoes also decorating it as well. So it really pays very close inspection, and it is absolutely exquisite and a very historically significant piece to have in the collection as well.
Well, I never for one moment underestimated its value, of course, and it is gold as opposed to the silver Melbourne Cup, and we've spoken volumes about this Fisher masterpiece. And when you tell me now there are only 5 that we know of, the value, well, who could put a price on it?
It's very hard to put a price on it, and it's one of the masterpieces in our collection of Fisher pieces. We have over 80 works by Fisher in the collection, including archival material that documents his workshop, which was over in Kirk's Place, over near Bellarine Street, so very local connection. But what's really important and very significant about this work as well is that it was made here in Australia, whereas the Melbourne Cups, from the first awarding of the Melbourne Cup, I believe, in the 1860s through to 1914 were always made abroad, and indeed the 1888 Melbourne Cup that we see here on display was made by Elkington and Co., a Birmingham company that had mastered the skill of electroplating. So even though it's an enormously big, beautiful cup, it's actually quite light, and I've had the fortune of moving it into the display case, and I was very pleasantly surprised at how light it is, because the base is actually electroplated and the beautiful, magnificently formed horses are actually silver.
From the Geelong Art Gallery, where I'm surrounded by cups, Melbourne Cup and the 1890 Gold Cup from Geelong, this is Ian Nichols for News Geelong.
Thank you very much, Ian. As we now move along, still keeping the Spring Carnival of Thoroughbred Racing in mind, Sunday afternoon, it was the Emirates Melbourne Cup, the $175,000 trophy that visited the Geelong RSL.
It's a pleasure to be here as part of the Emirates Melbourne Cup Tour. We've selected 34 destinations across Australia and New Zealand in the lead up to the 153rd running of the Melbourne Cup, and Geelong's been one of those centres that we've been able to bring the Cup to, and we're here at the Geelong RSL today and with our very special guests, and bringing this most sought-after sporting trophy, which will be presented at Flemington in about 16 days' time.
International Relations Manager, what does it entail for the VRC, Joe?
Well, it's certainly with the relations that we have with our international clubs, our alliance clubs across the globe. It's involved with the recruiting of horses for the Emirates Melbourne Cup. And it's also about taking this great trophy across not only Australia, New Zealand, but other parts of the world in the lead up to the Emirates Melbourne Cup. And it certainly never ceases to amaze the level of interest that this great race has.
A man who rode 2 Melbourne Cup winners throughout his illustrious career, a man amicably known as the Professor, and he still is. It's a great honour and welcome to News Geelong and Geelong, Mr. Roy Higgins. Roy, a big welcome.
Thank you, Graham. That's a very kind welcome. Thank you. We've just arrived in town. We've been all around the Western districts, travelling with this magnificent trophy, and it's been a real thrill, visiting the elderly people. We've been in about 5 or 6 elderly homes, care homes, about 8 or 10 schools, and about 20,000 screaming kids. Just been a ball. We're here in Geelong.
And you've got 2 small ones from your 2 wins in the Melbourne Cup still in your trophy cabinet.
Yes, well, the owner, as you would have seen the cup here, that's the one at about 3:10 on the first Tuesday in November, will be the one that he takes off the racetrack. We, meaning we as the trainer and the jockey, we get a smaller one, a replica one of about that level, that the owner might treasure that. I tell you what, I treasure those 2 little ones I've got at home, because jockeys are like, they're normal people, they do have dreams. My dream never only come once, my dream come twice.
And
to the great man, Mr. J.B. Cummings, mind you, I did start Mr. J.B. Cummings on his way. I won his first one for him. He won 12, he's still going, but I've stopped.
Has he always been as quiet as what he is now, Roy, Mr. J.B. Cummings?
Unfortunately, his health is not well. He's been, the last 12 or 18 months has been a tough time health-wise with Bart, and I was having a quick chat with him when he came down to Melbourne only the other day to be introduced into the Legends Club, and yeah, his health is not good, and well, let's face it, he is 85, going on 86, you know, so he's no chicken. He's been a great man. What a great asset to Australian racing he's been, you know. He's certainly helped put Australia on the map. And I was 16 years, I was his number one. So I owe half of my career, or 3/4 of my career, to the great man.
Thank you very much, Graham. And it's a great build-up you gave me too. I appreciate that. I don't get them much nowadays.
Well, the voice is still there, John.
Oh, well, what's left of it, I suppose. Like all of us, Graham, we're getting old and probably crotchety and not able to do things we used to do. We'd like to, but we can't now, of course. But we're still sailing along nicely, and this tour has been very good too. It's been very pleasant. I've met so many people in this district that I know so well because I was born in Warrnambool, and we've been down there to Terang and Mortlake and Woolsthorpe. Now we're back here at Geelong, which is one of my favourite cities, incidentally. And the Geelong Football Club have done me a couple of good tours. I backed them at nice odds and won the premiership twice, and probably should have won it again this year for a bit of luck. But anyway, that's in the past, but we're having a good time.
John, the halcyon days of your race calling, of course, Bert Bryant was with you on 3UZ, Bill Collins, the wonderful Londoner Brick on, Ken Howard up in Sydney. It must have been a great era.
Yeah, there were great names. I worked with Bert for something like 25 years until he got sick, and then I took his job at 3UZ, and I was there. I think my first Melbourne Cup was gold and black, which was a great thrill for a country boy, which I'd thought all my life. I always wanted to be a broadcaster, and I was able not only to do that, but to call a Melbourne Cup, which, of course, you can imagine is the pinnacle of every person aspiring to call races. That's what he wants to do, call the Melbourne Cup, and gold and black on the road, and called 19 after that.
And how long did it take you to warm up and practice for that first Melbourne Cup to make sure you got it right? Colours, jockeys, numbers, calling it coming into the home straight.
Well, I was just saying to a couple of the boys over here, you've got to be very careful, as you can imagine, and explain to them the art of calling is, just say, for instance, you come out and you're riding far lap. Your colours would be red, black and white hoop sleeves and a black cap. Now, the broadcaster's got to look at your colours. That set of colours represents the name of the horse. He's got to check the number of the horse, check you, your colours, and come out with a word farlap. And that's the way it's done right through. And when that race is gone, another one comes up, and it's exactly the same method. You don't want to be wrong, put it that way. If you were, they'd hang you.
We'll go to a break here on News Geelong and be back with more, but remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and also view your favourite segments on YouTube each week. News Geelong will return after this.